Nigeria confirms 72 new COVID-19 cases, with a lion's share of 51 recorded in Lagos. Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) says it has no plans to call off ongoing strike. In international news, voting kicks off across America today as the nation picks a new president. And in sports, Nigeria Wrestling Federation confirms 3 athletes for 2020 World Wrestling Championships.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has recorded 72 fresh COVID-19 cases on Monday, taking Nigeria's total to 63,036. 1,147 patients have died and 59,328 have recovered. NCDC said the cases were recorded in 8 states and Abuja. Lagos led other states with a lion's share of 51 cases, recently followed by the Federal Capital Territory at 6. Ogun, Kaduna, Niger, Ondo, Plateau, Katsina, and Oyo were in single digits, even lower than the FCT. The Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) has promised continued strike by its members while addressing journalists in Calabar on Monday. ASU Zonal Coordinator Dr. Anyekin Brown said the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System (IPPIS) is, quote, a cesspool of corruption. Anyekin promised a continued industrial action for as long as it would take. He described the government's declaration as false and a distraction. The 71,000 ASU members has already decided to register with the IPPIS. He said ASU does not even have up to 71,000 members. He said ASU members will not return to classes until the federal government deals with their demands. He said the members have not been paid for between 4 and 9 months. Anyekin said ASU has been rejecting the IPPIS since 2013 and has presented an alternative, UTAS. A Northern former lawmaker has broken ranks with Northern governors on the issue of social media censorship. Former Senator Shosani has disagreed with the call for censorship of social media by Northern governors, who said they made the call for censorship to avoid the spread of fake news and to stop the devastating effect of uncontrolled social media. The Northern governors had also said some NSOS protesters had taken advantage of the peaceful protest to push an agenda for separation. They condemned what they called subversive actions of those protesters. Shosani said in a tweet on Tuesday, while banditry was forcing Northern leaders to live in fear, the governors have chosen social media as their biggest concern. He said, quote, Northern governors, the king's men are being slaughtered daily by bandits and insurgents. The people are daily being kidnapped and impoverished by ransom. The women raped and their villages are under siege, end quote. A weekend attack by Boko Haram terrorists has left the village of Takulashi in Chibok, local government area of Borno State, in an ash heap. 11 villagers were also killed. One of the villagers said the terrorists launched a 3-hour attack on the village, set it on fire, and went on a killing rampage before the military arrived to repel them. Authorities said the insurgents were believed to have invaded the village through Sambisa forest. Rescue teams are searching nearby bushes and farmlands for villagers who fled during the attack. Takulashi village is often attacked because of its proximity to Sambisa forest. Villagers say insurgents often attack them on motorcycles through footpaths. Takulashi is a farming and herding community, although troops have remained in Chibok town since April 2014 after Boko Haram adopted 276 schoolgirls. Surrounding villages had no cover, but they continue to experience insurgent attacks. Former chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Babatunde Fowler, has responded to an invitation by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, who questioned him earlier today. EFCC spokesman Wilson Uwujare did not disclose the reasons for Fowler's questioning, but many are guessing it could be connected with an investigation into a 100 billion naira fraud accusation in 2018 by a former managing director and chief executive officer of Alphabet and Consulting, Dapo Akpara, against the Lagos Internal Revenue Service. Fowler was the permanent secretary, executive chairman of the Lagos State Board of Internal Revenue in 2005, before being appointed executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service in 2015. He was replaced in December last year by the end of his first term in office. The National Examinations Council, NECO, has announced Monday, November the 9th, as the new date for resumption of the 2020 Senior Certificate Examination in all states and Abuja. The examinations were suspended at the onset of the nationwide EndSARS protest. NECO spokesperson Aziz Sani said on Monday, the examinations will continue from Monday with a new timetable. Sani said the new schedule will be available to the public from Wednesday.
Coming up, African stories. South African public utility company Eskom loses nearly $1.5 billion this year. And later, international news. Voting kicks off across America today as the nation picks a new president.
You are watching a
Welcome back. This is ANN News. South Africa's public utility company Eskom's financial woes continue to bedevil the company as it released figures that show it lost almost $1.5 billion this year. Correspondent Angela Coppola reports.
The utility says it's worked on cost-cutting measures and managed to save a little over $1 billion. But that will be offset against the $468 million that was spent on diesel to minimize the effect of load shedding.
We were able to achieve an operating profit of $9.2 billion in a challenging environment. However, as everybody in South Africa is aware by now, we carry an unsustainable debt burden, gross debt of some $484 billion at year end. And that leads us to incur net finance cost of some 31.3 billion rand. And when you add that to the operating profit, that leads you then to a net loss of 20.5 billion.
Lower consumer demand due to a constrained economy didn't help the utility either.
The net operating profit is not able to even cover half of their debt service commitments. So the debt service cover ratio at the moment is about 52%. So that basically means they can only cover half of their debt service commitments through their net operating profit.
The chief financial officer made an astonishing admission during the briefing session.
Eskom cannot survive without the government's support. We are not a going concern. It comes out clearly in our director's report. We need to deal with that debt. 483 billion rand, that's generating around 40 billion. Interest cost is not sustainable. In terms of our analysis, we believe a more sustainable debt balance of borrowing should be around 200 billion.
Analysts weren't surprised by the comment. It's been an open secret for investors and funders for some time now.
Even after 18, 19 months, when this has been on the table, when the President gave his State of the Nation address in February 2019, they still have not got a clear picture of the way forward in respect of debt and how to make Eskom into a going concern.
Eskom management are trying all manner of solutions to try and get the utility back on track, increasing tariffs, increasing efficiencies, and bringing those headcounts down.
As Somalia prepares for an upcoming parliamentary election, calls are out for more efforts to ensure more women are represented. Somali women are demanding 1/3 of parliament seats in 2021 election. Women currently hold 1/4 of the 329 seats in Somalia's House of Parliament.
At his confirmation hearing in September, Somali Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble reiterated his administration plans to support more women representation in politics.
I have made it clear the quota for women must be guaranteed. I have received calls from all sectors of the society urging me to ensure that women receive their fair share of representation.
However, Somali women have expressed concerns of a deliberate attempt to lock them out of the upcoming polls, comments shared by rights groups and various advocacy organizations.
The government and parliament have vowed to support the quota for women, but that is not enough. We want a law put in place that will allow a woman to be given a seat in any constituency that has at least 3 representatives in parliament. The president and prime minister must work to endorse it, or else women will continue to be sidelined in politics.
Meanwhile, as the country plans to hold parliamentary elections next month, the United Nations has joined other rights groups in pressuring leaders to ensure women are not sidelined.
We urge all of Somalia's leaders to continue to collaborate in this manner with the preparations for the national elections so that they are underpinned by transparency, fairness, and inclusivity. This will include ensuring that the 30% quota for women's representation in the parliamentary elections is achieved.
At the federal level, women lawmakers account for 24% in both Parliament and the Senate. Advocacy groups are now warning that massive corruption will likely affect the outcome of the polls. The public will have no say in the process once again, as leaders fail to agree on how to conduct a popular vote, a move analysts say will have given marginalized sectors of the society a fair chance at seeking elective positions.
The draft amendments to the Algerian constitution was approved by nearly 67% of votes during a referendum on Sunday. The results were announced at a press conference in Algiers on Monday by the chairman of the National Independent Authority of Elections, Mohamed Jafi. The Constitutional Council is obligated by law to announce the final results of the referendum within 10 days.
When we return, international news. Voting kicks off across America today as the nation picks a new president. And later, sport. Nigeria Wrestling Federation confirms 3 athletes for 2020 World Wrestling Championships.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. At least 4 civilians have been killed and 17 others injured when gunmen opened fire at multiple locations in Vienna, the Austrian capital, on Monday evening. Interior Minister Carl Nehame said 2 men and 2 women died from the injuries they sustained in the attack which happened near Vienna's main synagogue. Residents were enjoying a last night out before a month-long coronavirus lockdown when gunshots rang out. Nehame said 1 dead gunman, identified as 20-year-old dual citizen of Austria and North Macedonia, had been convicted before trying to travel to Syria. Vienna's hospital service says 17 persons are currently in hospital for their injuries, 7 of whom are in life-threatening condition. Austria press agency reports 2 arrests had been made in the nearby town of St. Porten. The Viennese had been urged to stay at home if possible, and children did not have to go to school on Tuesday. Some 1,000 police officers have been deployed in the manhunt. Neighboring countries have stepped up border checks. Germany has returned to a partial lockdown to curb a second wave of the coronavirus pandemic and what has been outrightly called an exponential rise in coronavirus infections. Until the end of November, tight restrictions were placed on social gatherings and businesses where people gather. Correspondent Trent Murray has the story.
It's a country that won praise for its initial handling of the pandemic. But Germany now finds itself losing in its fight with the second wave of COVID-19. As a result, the country is now back under partial lockdown. Bars, restaurants and cafes have been forced to close their doors to diners and are only able to provide takeaway service. Business owners say they're bracing for a difficult few weeks ahead.
The situation is, of course, very bizarre and really very, very sad, but we've already been through it once this year. We've had a lockdown before. We can just repeat the whole thing now.
Gyms, cinemas and theatres have also been shut, and hotels have been told not to accept bookings from holidaymakers, as authorities tell people not to travel for leisure. The measures follow a rising number of new COVID-19 infections. Germany has now had over 500,000 cases since the start of the pandemic, a large number of which have been recorded in recent weeks. Authorities hope that halting service in the hospitality sector will help slow the spread.
Business groups say a second round of forced closures could spell the end for many bar and restaurant owners, many of which are still struggling to recover losses from the first round of lockdowns. But Chancellor Angela Merkel says she's determined to see struggling businesses survive the pandemic, and she's prepared to use government funds to make sure of it.
The government has committed over €10 billion to areas of the economy hit hardest by the pandemic. Schools and shops will remain open this time, but the Chancellor will meet state leaders next week to review the measures and says they could be extended if the crisis isn't brought under control.
Voting on Election Day in the United States is officially underway, with the spotlight on the race for the White House between Republican incumbent President Donald Trump and his rival, former Vice President and Democrat Joe Biden. Millions of Americans are out in person to add their ballots to the more than 99 million already cast by early voters. Trump is trying to avoid becoming the first incumbent president to lose a re-election fight since George H.W. Bush in 1992. Early voting has been flawed by the pandemic, which has gradually worsened in the U.S. The country is on the verge of recording its highest electoral turnout in more than a century. The election comes after America's worst ever week for new coronavirus cases, with more than 1,000 persons dying each day. Trump held 5 rallies in 4 battleground states: North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin on the final day of campaigning on Monday. Biden spends most of Monday in Pennsylvania and Ohio. Early voting surged to levels never before seen in U.S. elections. 98.7 million early votes have been cast either in person or by mail. Election observers say the U.S. could be on course for a record-breaking voter turnout this year. In a U.S. election, voters decide state-level contests rather than an overall single national one. To become U.S. president, a candidate must win at least 270 votes in what's called the Electoral College, which the founding fathers put in place to ensure election fairness and equal voice among very large states and smaller ones.
For generations, the South.
And still on U.S. elections, a Republican stronghold, Arizona, is now up for grabs. This is because of an influx of new residents from more liberal states like California. Another issue is a massive backlash against President Donald Trump from white suburban women and especially young Latinos of voting age. Correspondent Francis Contreras has the story.
For generations, the southwestern state of Arizona has been traditional, conservative, and it has voted Republican. But public opinion polls indicate that could change after this election. Tucson Mayor Regina Romero, a Democrat, has been working to get out the vote in her city's Mexican-American neighborhoods. Romero says by attacking Latino immigrants, President Donald Trump attacks her own community. And that, she says, is stirring the opposition.
That is the Mexican immigrant and the Mexican families that have been here for generations that he was talking about. We're not going to forget that just 45 minutes away from here, he had babies in cages, separating them from their mothers.
Terrell Donald is among a large number of Arizona voters who cast their ballots ahead of Election Day. He supports Trump.
The most important issue is that I don't have somebody trying to take my guns, and I have somebody that doesn't want open borders.
But a leading syndicated columnist at the Arizona Republic newspaper, Elvia Diaz, says immigration is not on voters' minds. In this state, it's all about the pandemic, she says.
COVID hit us hard, so everyone is focused on the economy. Everyone is focusing on opening the economy, opening businesses, restaurants, and getting a job. So there are too many people without a job. So immigration, it's not a big deal right now, or at least they're not paying attention to it.
But residents are paying close attention to the outcome of this election. Rapidly changing demographics are bringing speedy changes among the electorate here. That may explain why the latest public opinion polls show that Joe Biden is leading Donald Trump by 4 percentage points in a state that was once a Republican stronghold.
Up next, sport. Nigeria Wrestling Federation confirms 3 athletes for 2020 World Wrestling Championships. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit. We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. Sports Minister Sunday Dare has approved 3 female athletes and the coach of the Nigeria Wrestling Federation as the contingents to the 2020 World Wrestling Championships in the Serbian capital of Belgrade next month. World Championship silver and bronze medalist Odrayo Adekuri will lead the park, as well as African champions Aminat Adeniji and Blessing Okorodudu. The trio will be led by head coach of the female national team, Purity Aku. Allegations of assault have been brought against Wales manager Ryan Giggs, who has been arrested on suspicion he assaulted his girlfriend. His representative said he denies all assault allegations and is cooperating with the police. The Football Association of Wales has cancelled a press conference planned for Tuesday, where Giggs was due to announce his squad for upcoming international games. That is the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, ANNAfrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.